So I express my gratitude, appreciation for the coming here and visiting Ajahn Kalyano and BuddhaBodhivana and all of you. It's a very beautiful place, and I've been well taken care of, and no complaints, no criticisms. But the important thing is, of course, the practice. And now at this time there's so many kind of tensions in the air because of issues that arise in the Sangha and society. So that is just part of life, because every monastery that one stays in there's moments where it's very peaceful and no problems, but it changes. And that's the way life is. So the samana is one who lives on the edge of survival, making himself a alms mendicant depending on the goodness of others, and then the practice mindfulness to see through the illusions that one clings to in the moments of our life, in the daily experiences, the things that happen, the contingencies, personal problems, sangha problems, societal problems. The conditioned realm is all about problems, and there's never any end to problems. Discontentment, wanting something you don't have, or not wanting things to be the way they are. So I made that my practice due to having been compelled into a leadership position very early. I couldn't avoid the inevitable problems that have come through monastic life, but I've used them. And how I use them is I've always, through the reflection on the Four Noble Truths and cultivating this way from samadhi, so that you know, whatever happens is reflected on. You watch, observe the effect, the way it affects your mind, your citta, and learn to accept whatever it might be. Acceptance does not mean approval in any way, but it means willingness to let the conditioned phenomena be what it is, because its nature is impermanent and not self. If you keep doing this practice, it takes a strong determination, because even in monastic life there's so many crises, important issues, pressures, what people here in Australia expect and want and demand of the monastic Sangha. I don't know, not having lived here, but social pressures from the society, from the Thai Sangha, from people living with you, your supporters, and they keep the constant awareness of how it affects, how the kind of emotional reactions, responses that one has, and whatever they are, whatever positive or negative, your relationship to them is through being the Bhutto, the knowing, rather than the one who's endlessly trying to sort it all out and make everything agreeable and everything right. So this is a traditional form, this Theravada and form of Buddhism, and we assume it is the kind of original, or taken close to the original teaching of the Buddha. Of course, the first sermon is the kind of essence, the heart of Theravada Buddhism, and then the Vinaya. So the Vinaya, like the lay people tend to like the Dhamma. They like, the marvelous Dhamma teachings that we have in the Pali Canon. But the Vinaya is something that is mostly not understood by Western lay people at all. And so it's because it is going against the common trend and fashion and zeitgeist of the present age, especially like a country like this. Australia is very free and based on, individualism, and it's not doesn't have a tradition. It's kind of anti-tradition, I rather suspect, and suspects tradition and things from the old world, or from Europe or England, or things, because these are the places you go where you get away from all the structures, social structures and hierarchical structures and that of the old world. And also Buddhism now is very much associated with this kind of freedom of the spirit, the free spirit, the new age, psychotherapy and so forth. So and because the Dhamma side the Buddha taught, used psychological terms. He's talking about the nature of the mind, and so that's one of the attractive things. It draws from the kind of intelligentsia of a country. You find most of the people interested in Buddhism in Europe are middle class or educated people. In America. So because it is intelligent and it blends well with modern psychological terms, and it's quite scientific. In fact, people ask me whether Buddhism is a religion, or some people believe it is not a religion because we don't have a belief in a God. But the real meaning of religion, and the Latin root is the kind of conventional form binding you to ultimate reality. So in that case, it is. It's a very pure religious form, but it also fits every category. It's scientific. It's in the word science also. The real meaning of science tends to be associated with the empirical Western scientific endeavors, but the science means knowledge, and it's more like jnana dasana. It goes much deeper than just empirical observations looking outward, but also it takes it to the ultimate source through mindfulness. So it can be seen as philosophy, psychology, science, and religion. Because Dhamma includes everything. There's nothing that isn't Dhamma. So because it does adapt itself to different groups and attitudes, that's where the Vinaya helps to keep that steady continuity through time, through ages. There are 2,552 years of traditional Theravada Buddhism, or using this Vinaya that we have from the Tripitaka. Then that holds, because on the conventional level, the structure of Vinaya is not negotiable. You can't kind of just, change it according to modern values. The agreement is to work within the structures and limitations. And that's the point of it. It's not about whether you like it or agree with every rule and every attitude of Vinaya. It's not, not supposed to be agreeable and likable to every bloke that enters the Sangha, but it's a measure, it's a boundary to see one's own, to observe, and to conform, not out of fear or pressure, but conformity through mindfulness, through seeing the suffering, the dukkha we create when we endlessly get caught up in our own views, opinions, and attitudes and desires. So that's why it kind of holds it together through time, why the Buddhism, has become very much interest in countries like this that they've never before had any understanding, interest in it. And now there is in the States, in Europe, and everywhere. There's a growing interest in the teaching of the Buddha. It's very pure, very accurate. The Dhamma teaching is brilliant and based in a way that isn't bound into cultural limitations. So that's why it's appropriate to any society, whatever stage they're in, because it's not about Western science and being modern and liberal and tolerant and idealistic, nor is it about old ancient Indian cultural values. So it's about the nature of the mind, the causes of suffering, and the way to liberate oneself, free oneself through mindfulness from this grasping out of ignorance, and then to cultivate and living within the limitation we find ourselves, physical limitations, etc. Within the form, say in the monastic form, then it provides a way of living, of integrating mindfulness into the daily life, your daily life, and it includes others. And so people want to, ask to join the Sangha, but also includes the lay communities, and has a good effect on the society. So I always seen myself in the UK as someone who's come there to, as a peaceful, bring, not to interfere, cause more friction, division within the society, not to create more problems for the British, but to serve and help and be a good influence on the society in whatever way that is possible within this tradition. I've been really, years that I've been a monk, I'm incredibly grateful for, because it is a very unique way to live. And one, so out of the spectrum of my possibilities from my social and cultural background. One feels almost like a measure of destiny or whatever that guides us through our lifetimes. It certainly moved me into very skillful ways to live and cultivate. And but also you don't get what you expect. This is where many people are disappointed with Buddhist monasticism, because they expect to get something that you will never get. And so, and then they think it isn't, they feel disappointed, or they blame the convention. They think it doesn't work. But that's the point. With mindfulness, you really, you're looking in a way at hope and despair and wanting something you don't have and not wanting things to be the way they are. Or yourself, you're looking at yourself, and you can be very self-critical, don't like yourself, see yourself in very negative perceptions. Or you want to change yourself. You want to get rid of certain horrible habits or unpleasant ways of thinking or negative emotions, and hopefully to abide in a state of eternal bliss. So in this Four Noble Truths teaching, that is where we see the three kinds of desire and the wanting to have peace and harmony and happiness as a continuous experience, and not wanting any disruption, any disharmony, fear, anything that, and trying to avoid, trying to bypass life. I've found Buddhist monasticism has compelled me to confront probably mental states and emotions that I could have spent a lifetime ignoring or pushing away from me. So that this mindfulness brings up our vipaka karma in all its various forms of positive, negative qualities, but our relationship to them changes from picking and choosing and grasping and rejecting things to observing and letting go. And it seems like it's really relaxing, being at ease, because the mindfulness taken to where it's integrated is a sense of being fully at ease within the problems and difficulties, wars, and pressures of the conditioned realm. So I certainly respect your endeavors, your goals, aspirations to develop this life, and may you all benefit and be free from all delusion.